rock.
What is going, guys? My name is Feeds, and welcome to Feeds Mindset, episode number 21 with the man Slayium. How are you, man? Welcome in. Welcome in.
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I really appreciate your time being here. It's kind of somewhat of a short notice. And oddly enough, we was talking a little bit, starting this podcast, we had actually known each other. I felt kind of rude because like I knew that you would look familiar. But if you don't mind, tell everybody, what you used to go by and what your old name kind of used to be.
Honestly, my old name used to be Enforcer Gaming's. It sadly had the S because someone took my, the original Enforcer Gaming. I
Mm-hmm.
did try messaging that guy and say, hey, can I get my name? I mean, I had this for a very long time. It's just I couldn't have it. And he just replied to me, no comment, no answer. I don't want to answer you, whatever. So I said to my friends, I said, all right, let's think of a new name. We all came up together, me, Nox, and Dragon. And I said, all right, let's come up with a brand new name. Well, every time when we're killing game, like we were playing, S&D, Call of Duty, whatever, and he said slaying. And I said, you know what? Let's change something about that. I said, let's turn that into something else. I said, all right, slaying. We'll put IUM. We'll put into Slayum. So we changed it to Slayum. That's the brand new name. So you know what? I like the new name, and it
Yeah.
sounds.
That's
And
sick, and
it
it's a little
rolls
bit
off the
shorter
tongue.
too. It is a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
It does roll off the tongue for sure. Yeah, it's cool. I usually always bring up a topic like this at the very beginning because I like to set the tone because my podcast is about mental health and
Mhm.
awareness and stuff, and I do make a point. Like obviously, we are friends, but I'm not going to go and say that we're best friends or nothing. But it does make it easier of us, knowing each other a bit more. But still, I mean, we've known each other off and on for almost 3 years. I mean, ever since the Obey RC, that was when we first connected. And then after that, we all just kind of parted our old ways. So, I mean, at a technical standpoint, we are hypothetically, we are still kind of random people.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I say this is not to push down on our friendship for us being bad friends, but it's to normalize it for other people that are watching because a lot of people have issues not only building and connecting with random people, but also reconnecting. So I do think that it is cool that we're having this podcast here today because me and you are kind of reconnecting. I mean, like I said, we wasn't tight, but we talked, almost on the daily, at least during the RC, at least. We was in the chats and constantly posting content. We was in each other's streams and watching each other's videos. Like it was a really cool time. Are you thankful that you did the Obey RC and how all that transpired?
Honestly, I was thankful to meeting brand new people, coming to stream, enjoying what they were seeing. And you know what? In that time, I was checking out everybody else. There was Scary Terry and some other people, and I was enjoying their streams. And I always came in, tuned in, and said, "Hey, man, I love what I'm seeing, and hopefully, you know what, you get picked up into that Obey C." And for me, it made me transition to a different person from like learning experience from doing RCs. I love them. They're fun to do, and it just puts you out there on the spot.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it definitely does. But the kind of downside, I feel like it's getting harder and harder every year. Like when RCs come out and stuff, I feel like
always.
I don't know if it's people lowering their standards or if people expect too much. I mean, do you kind of feel the same way about how we used to grind back then versus a random RC now for whatever team? I mean, do you feel that it's changed?
It's changed big time, honestly. Because now you see when you're watching their RC grinds, you want to do something different in theirs. You want to make something
Yeah.
different, and it's a lot harder now from what they're doing to what you're doing, and a lot of people stop doing it because they're like, I can't do it anymore. It's getting too hard, and all this time and effort, it's going to bring them down, and it's not. I don't like that.
Do
I
you
just like.
think? Do you think that people? So before I say this, I understand if you're grinding for something that can be an actual opportunity, of course you're going to be competitive. But for teams that you're more so just kind of joining to have the name and to have that next step in your career, do you feel like people take it too competitive? Do you think people kind of hit it a little bit harder and they forget the whole reason why they're grinding in the first place, or even just where their content stems from?
I feel like in that like point of stance, it's people want to like push their content out hard, and it
Hmm.
is like very competitive. I see a lot of people be very competitive, and you'll get a lot of trash talkers sometimes in the RCs that you see nowadays, and it's not much of them will support. They'll be like, "Hey, bye." That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you see lately. And after the whole RC's over, they don't even come see you anymore, right? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay. Like, you
Yeah.
can't do nothing about that, really. You
Yeah,
can't say nothing.
it does stink it, and that's why I said, like, back then, like, even during that OBRC and other ones, like, I've got quite a bit of creators that I've met, but there's only like a good camera fix. Thank you. Maybe no. Okay, it'll fix eventually. But I've met a lot of good creators from doing our season stuff, and Frosty was one of them. I talk about him a lot on my podcast and stuff. And Frosty was a really good connection. I mean,
Yeah, he was.
you were a
I
good
seen him.
connection. We didn't click ties up on down the road, which is fine. But I'm very thankful for that. And realistically, even though like a friendship like me and you, like even though it didn't go too far, it did allow us to kind of have a better chance to connect more today. And it all kind of comes full circle. Whether it happens the next 6 months, in the next 3 years, whatever, like it does kind of work out. And I feel like a lot of people get caught up in the moment, and like I said, I feel like they just lose sight of the objective.
Yeah, of course. I see that all the time.
So yeah,
And uh, that's all I can really say about that one, really,
yeah.
about the RCs.
Yeah, it does stink. But yeah, I wanted to cover. Excuse me, I keep having to clear my throat. I wanted to
Oh, you're
cover
good.
a little bit about that and kind of where we stem from, because I like giving anybody watching an idea about my relationship with whoever's on here, and friendship and stuff. So I want to kind of get into, before we get to where you used to be and how you stem from and got into gaming. How would you describe yourself as current day? Like, who is Slayium as of today, and for your community?
For me, as like myself, I am still my almost my old self, but not. I've been pushing a lot more content out. I've been always on the ball, making sure that I have TikToks going out. I got everything going out. I've been trying to play some different games now instead of Call of Duty, so I want to be that variety streamer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like I got a VR headset. I want to get into games like I see on VR. There's some nice
Yeah.
fun ones that you get to do. So on myself, I'm just trying to keep pushing and pushing and pushing as I go. So
Yeah, definitely.
and
And where do you stream it?
I stream on Kick. I
Okay,
moved it
cool.
there. I like Kick a lot better.
Yeah, I do too. I'm the same thing. It stinks, man. It really does, because I mean, there's a big old conversation we could get, but the realistic conversation is going to be the same thing that everybody else says. But the way that I see it is, I think that Twitch has been at the top of the game for so long, and it's just like every other company. Like eventually, unless if you're like one in a million companies, like eventually somebody is going to outshine you and they're going to outdo you, and it is unfortunate. But as a creator that's trying to make a career out of it and stuff, like you have to take care of that opportunity. And I explain it to everybody, because everybody always says like, oh, like you're in it for the money or whatever. And it's like, hypothetically, yeah, because at the end of the day, like you're providing for your family. So I feel like a lot of people take it the wrong way. Like, a lot of people aren't in it for the money, but as a creator, you have to acknowledge that you have to feed your family. And so I don't like when people use the context of like, yeah, I want more money, and that's stupid that Twitch takes that much away. I would rather somebody be like, yeah, like, that extra $200 that I have, buys groceries for my kids for the month. Like that's what I see into it. And I don't feel like a lot of people see it that way. And a lot of people do just take it as like a money mule company. And they're like, oh, like Twitch would never do that to me. And then they put all these labels and all these strikes on all their creators, and limiting to, their growth and their creativeness, when Twitch was originally created to be creative as a creator, like,
Yeah, of
it's
course.
crazy.
And a lot of people, when Kick first came out, a lot of small streamers moved to there to help them get that oomph. And I of course, I was one of them.
Mhm.
So, but to seeing that, it did help a lot of people, because now I see a lot of people that were small streamers before that I followed on Twitch, got now average at least 20 to 30 people on their Kick, which is cool. I like that. It helps them. They're really happy about it. And for me, as a small, sorry, but as of like for me, I'm still enjoying the small content creator as myself, right? I'm
Mhm.
still learning as I go.
Yeah.
But again, people are in it for the money. I mean, Twitch has been doing a lot of cuts for their money taken away, right? Like you get a small little portion out of their money,
Mhm.
and I think that's why they moved to Kick, because of that.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And before we continue on, just to set the bar, there is a fly that's going around in Slayham's room. That's why we're laughing. I don't know if you had seen it just now, but he's just like in a little fucking NASCAR, just zooming around. Um, but yeah, and that's kind of like my hot take on it, is because at the end of the day, like let's say in perspective, let's say that I'm at my job, I'm on my 30-minute work lunch, and I have nothing to do. I don't have anybody to call. I don't really think of some videos to watch. So I'm like, okay, let's go watch the streamer for a little bit, tap into him. I want to check him out. You go on Twitch, automatically you get hit with a fucking like 9+ ads, and that already delimits your time. And then you go in, and then especially if it's somebody new that you're tapping into, there's settings and stuff that they have, like, oh, you have to be following this channel for 10 minutes to reply, and just like little dumb stuff that takes up more time out of your day. And I just feel like Kick offers that platform to be a no helds bar, or whatever that saying is, like to
Yeah.
not hold that to creators, to limit what time that they have to offer. And that's kind of one of my bigger reasons, because if I tab up 4 streams and I go and click on all of them individually, and I'm having to wait 2 to 3 minutes per ad every single one, that's collectively almost 10 minutes that I'm just wasting to say hey to somebody, because you're not going to say hey while an ad's going because you don't see their reply. And I feel like Kick doesn't offer. I know that they do have incentives for ads and stuff, but I genuinely feel like there's going to be a toggle. I don't think that ads would be forced on Kick. I think that it'll be an optional feature, and I feel like that's kind of the right way, in my opinion, because then when you watch an ad on Kick, and if it does it that way, you understand you're watching that ad for the creator. I feel like when that happens on Twitch, you're watching it because Twitch wants you to watch it. Same thing with YouTube. YouTube wants you to watch that ad before you get into it. It's not an optional thing. They care about you watching that ad more than the content that you're trying to click for. I mean, do you feel the same way?
Honestly, I was just trying to watch some streams yesterday. I was trying to watch Agony and all the other people that I watch, and all I get, boom, ad. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's just ridiculous now. Then I was like, you know what? I want to go on. I just move over to Kick. I go there. I get no ads. I can actually chat, interact with some people, and it's fun to have that now. And same thing when you were just talking about with the whole ad thing. I think it is going to be a toggle. I think that would be a great option that they will add to that.
Mm-hmm.
And for for that, but if they're going to get ads on there, I think hopefully people will be benefit from that ad then.
Right.
You know what I mean? So at least get something incentive
Yeah.
on that.
And I would also kind of, in my personal opinion, I hope that Kick, if they do offer ads, I hope that they really tap into the community. Let me try to think of like an obvious one that I can think of right off the top of my head, like F3 Energy. They've been going like crazy. They've been everywhere.
Yeah.
They've been all over your timeline and stuff. And being able to see ads like that as a creator, like ads you get on TikTok is stuff about like football and baseball and some wrestling and stuff, and that's all like good stuff, but it's not stuff that everybody is intrigued about. I'm not really a sports person at all, so I know almost everything about sports in any type of sport. I understand the objective of it, but it's not something that I want to dedicate my time to watch.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something that I am hoping for. I would not be upset at all with ads on Kick if it's something that was relevant to the creators or to the community that we're a part of. I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, do you think that it would be cool to see,
Like you create
something
your
like
own
F3?
ad?
Yeah,
Like
I mean, yeah,
create
you
your
could
own
create
little
your own
ad on
ad.
there? Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool about that, honestly, because again, that's putting your branding out there as your own little ad. So like your own little YouTube ad or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. And then because again, that's your creation, your ad, your revenue. That's what it should be then
Yeah.
for adding, and I think that'd be an awesome.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good feature, because it would really dally into the sponsorship ordeal, because if you put your own ad on Kick and whatever that you promote, your merch or whatever, and it's getting a bunch of clicks, you can then use that, implement it into the Kick algorithm, and then reach out to them and be like, hey, at Kick Streaming, I've been on this platform, I had a lot of my ads, this is what, I sponsor, this is what my ads are about, and this is how they do. And it's kind of a cool way to kind of introduce your business. Like there's a lady, I could butcher it, and I'm sorry if it's wrong, but I think it's Cosmic Candles, I think. And even something like that would be super sick for whoever it is to promote whatever brand that they're selling, or if it's their merch or something, and then to see traction on it and some sales and stuff. It would be a good way to use that as leverage to then have a conversation saying, hey, if you sponsor me, this is what I have to offer. It's like, look at what I've created. And I feel like it would kind of be a win-win for a lot of people,
like
and
a
it
bit
would
as
open
a
up
like a bit of a business, right?
Mhm.
I could do this and I give you this much percentage out of
Right.
my stuff. Yeah, like
Yeah,
that.
and then
That's pretty good.
as Kick, they can see that you are creating something, and it would be a win-win conversation because they wouldn't get into something that don't make them money. So if you're automatically offering them nothing but money, but to support you with a few additives, I mean, it's going to be a no-brainer for anybody, especially with this platform being new. It is a hard discussion because, as a new platform, you don't want to do anything that would derail your company. I do feel like it would be important for a lot of people to just be able to get themselves out there.
It really is. Honestly, I would see that happening, and hopefully they do consider doing that kind of thing
Yeah,
one day.
definitely. But yeah, that was cool to be able to touch around that topic. So let's kind of finally go back and understand, who Slayium is and where you came from. I want to talk about, 3 topics, which, we did kind of already talk about your name a little bit. But I do want to kind of tap into Enforcer gaming a little bit because that was something you was passionate about for a while. But
Yeah.
before that, I want to get into gaming, then streaming, and then your name. So let's kind of talk about gaming. How did you get into gaming? I mean, was there something you was really invested in as a kid? Did you have siblings that you played with? I mean, how did that transpire where you had a passion for gaming?
So when I was a kid, I was about 14. Yeah, when I was 14, I got into gaming. I had my first ever. I had a Game Boy. That's what I started with.
Mm-hmm.
That thing was fun, playing Pokemon and all that stuff. That was really fun. And then
Yeah.
then the Xbox came, and I turned into a Halo guy. Halo was really my thing. Halo, ODST, Halo 3, so on. And then came out Call of Duty. And then I watched my dad play Call of Duty. It was really fun, and it was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this. So I played Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and I used to have a guy. His name was Robe. T's
Mm-hmm.
Robe, and we played Call of Duty BO2. We had a private match, and I was a big fan of Scumpy, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and after that, we made a video together and still posted on the YouTube channel about that from 9 years ago. I'm like, wow. So, but yeah, it was really cool. And from then, I just continued on. I had a small little setup at a small table in that one little corner over here. And from there, I built up. I used to have one monitor, and then as it went on, I kept growing with new stuff. And from then, I just became a Call of Duty sniper then. And
Yeah.
sniping was one of my best things to do.
Was there a way that you had got into sniping specifically that made you feel like this is the type of content I want to wake up and do every day when I have the time?
Well, my inspiration was basically agony, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the sniping I've been wanting to do. And then all that phase, like the ill cams. You guys
Right.
remember that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the ill cams were another thing to watch and do. So I was like, dang, I really want to try this out. So I started sniping. I was practicing my shots in private match and then hitting bangers. And it was my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And then I finally switched from controller to mouse and keyboard because it was a lot smoother.
So was COD your first keyboard and mouse game?
Yes, 100%.
Did you ever get into like Valorant or other games like that? I use Valorant because it's what I'm a common to.
I played CS:GO. CS:GO was my favorite one to play as well, and I tried Valorant. I tried a bit of it. It was okay, but it wasn't my like forte.
It's
to
definitely
play.
not for everybody for sure. Yeah,
But
I was a flip side. I didn't like CS:GO. I didn't feel the satisfaction of killing somebody. Like you would always have to check, which obviously enough. My name is Feeds, but it is kind of. It's not annoying for me to ever look at the feed, but to have to do it because I didn't know if I killed somebody, that's when it kind of gets a little annoying. So that's why I didn't like it too much. But I did love sniping in CS:GO. I do think that it's very fluent, and it does feel good when you snipe. I wish that's the one thing about Valorant that I love is just a stupid little like dun, like when you kill somebody, like it's so minimalistic, and you're like yes, like it makes it just a little bit more impactful.
Oh, that and the case opening. The case opening is fun to do, right?
Yeah.
Because you can hopefully pull a knife and everybody. But nowadays, right now, like I see a lot of people just open the blue cases and get some blues. I'm like, oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think on the topic of cases, something if I could go back in time and re-experience something case wise, I know it's like a very specific topic, but it would be Rocket League. I loved Rocket League so
Oh.
much. The little big old spin wheel and opening
Yep.
that up, watching John Sandman and Phantom Ace, like, oh, like
That
I
was fun.
loved it, man. Being able to go and trade, and I have a titanium white octane. And it's like, well, I have 24 accelerator crates. Will you accept my deal? And it's like I miss those times so much, man.
Dude, that was fun. I remember that too because I was playing Rocket League at that time. That was fun. And then now it just stopped.
Yeah, no, I stopped too. It got very when I started watching RLCS when I was first into it and seeing all these guys, I was like, there's no way that not really the fact that I won't be that skilled, but there's no way that I could just wake up and have to try that hard every single game. Like Rocket League is such it's a mental and physical game, because you're mentally trying to figure out when to go, and then you're physically having to click all these different buttons, and you have to boost a certain way, turn a certain way, and if you fuck up an air roll on your car, you could possibly cost your team the goal. Like there's just so much into it, and I couldn't get into it, but I have hundreds of hours invested into YouTube videos
I
watching case
I made
openings.
I made a lot of my friends rage on that game because every time I miss the ball, they give me bad stuff about it. I'm like, oh well, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I had two of my friends. I think one was what was their name? I think DK Burger Boy and Blockheads. I could be butchering their name. I'm not sure. I butcher names all the time. But playing with them on Rocket League, I talk to them like a little bit nowadays. I still follow them on Twitter and stuff and check them on every now and then. But I had like belly laughing moments playing with them in private match and just doing stupid stuff. And Rocket League was definitely a top tier game for me as far as like enjoyment goes and entertainment. I mean, I feel like when I'm playing COD and Valorant, like I feel like I'm playing for that entertainment factor, but I don't really feel like joy a lot like while I'm playing these games because all I'm aiming for is that big clip or that one moment.
Yeah.
Or even like when I'm playing, ranked, like where I do my rank sniping, like that one time when I had a 1v4 in search and I, hit a quad feed, like all in mid map, like, like in the heat of the moment, I love it and it's great. But like a couple minutes after it's over, like my head's kind of like burnt out where it's like, all right, like,
Mhm.
well, that happened, and like, I don't, it's hard to find the drive for it.
Yeah.
And I have, I have a lot of struggles with finding games that I enjoy, which I know everybody could kind of say that, but like, I don't enjoy anything. Like I'll look for hours on YouTube watching videos of cool co-op games to play or story modes to play, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is a good game. This is a good game," and I'm like, "No, it's not." And like I'm
Well,
watching it, I'm like, "This is so boring."
well, that's the thing, right? I bounce back between Call of Duty and I play with my friend Killstreak on Madden. We've been playing that, but we'll rage a lot on
Mm-hmm.
Madden when we play, and because again, there's a lot of broken stuff still in that game. So at times we'll play for a good hour, two, and then we'll see broken stuff happen in the game. We're like, yeah, we're done. We're gonna quit. We're on to the next game. So it's,
So we got into you gaming and getting into all of that. So now let's kind of tap into streaming. I mean, I know that you had you was a COD sniper. You was very intrigued by everybody. I mean, was it a certain inspiration? Did somebody get you into streaming? Did you just wake up and see Twitch one day or Mixer or whatever it was? I mean, how did you get into streaming?
So when I got into streaming, I was about 15 years old. I was watching what was his name? I was watching PewDiePie. That's who it was.
Mm,
He started streaming, and I was like, you know what? It seems like it was pretty cool to interact with some people, and one of my friends too was saying, you know what? You should like record this slash stream it, put yourself out there, and see if what happens. See what happens. Takes
mm,
off, and then I tried it, and again, that's when I had that one monitor set up over there, and I was like, dang, how can you close one tab, read a chat,
mm.
so then people just start using their phones as their chat reader
Yeah.
on Twitch, and so I went from that, and but it was really fun at the times, and as you build up your streaming and you want to build a small community, it was really fun back then, honestly.
Yeah.
And now where I am at now, I think I like it where I am.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I like being able to, understand the background, especially got into streaming because I feel like right now it's such a relevant topic because where Kick is still kind of so new, and that is a topic I do like talking about because it's kind of like, let's say Kick was never a thing, and I asked that question, how'd you get into streaming? Like a lot of people would probably still be on the same platform that there are. There's still a lot of people that do Twitch, that hasn't transferred over, which is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that, to each their own, but I feel like it is a bit more meaningful because now it's the simplicity of knowing that you used to be on Twitch and now you're on Kick. And it's just a factor of knowing that you made that change no matter how big or small that your community was. So I do like hearing about getting into that. So as a creator, let's think back to when you first got into Twitch. You started streaming, building a community and stuff like that. Fast forward now, forget all the in between. Just think about when you started and the feelings you were having versus now you're on Kick in the community that you built. I mean, are you proud of everything that you built? Do you feel like you've come a long way? How do you feel about the transition from where little old Slayium used to be to now where you are now?
From where I was before, I was, it was okay. It was still learning experience at the time being when I was 15. And now from where I am, from like, because we remember that app Mixer, that was a
Mm-hmm.
big thing too. So I moved from there. So I was like from there to Twitch to Mixer and then back to Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a little bit of a learning experience going back and forth on a different platform. But now, when I stayed at one spot on Twitch, that progressed a little bit, and then where I'm sitting now on Kick, I'm happy to be there. It's
Yeah.
a lot, and I'm sitting pretty on that one,
Yeah,
and
and
I'm
I think it's a good topic because it's not the fact of all the new stuff that Kick has applied. I personally feel like, I'm not going to get into this big old topic about Twitch and things that I'm not appreciative of, but the simplest thing I could say is I do feel like a lot of people are getting burnt out just by being on Twitch because I feel like they're not getting the awareness that they want. And I myself as a creator, like I know who I am, I know what kind of goals that I want, and I see other people that's getting featured and being out there. And it's not the fact that I'm like they don't deserve those numbers, but it's like, man, like I need to figure out what I can do to finally get the community to build because my heart's in it, and there's people out there that you can tell that their heart's not in it. They get they could get gifted like 50 subs and like, oh, like let's go, like thank you, and then they just continue playing the game like nothing matters, and like it's
yeah.
stupid. I feel like people forget the objective, and I feel like a lot of people are specifically burnt out by Twitch. So do you feel like Kick was kind of like a new opportunity for a lot of people?
I think that too, but also I think some creators, I think they're just there to just put their self out there, like just their gameplay. They don't care about the gifted subs, they don't care about the subbing and all that stuff. They just want to put themselves out there just for their gaming content. Like I'm sure people. That's why some people turn off their subscriptions, so they just
Mm-hmm.
have just people watching and playing. That's it. That's what I see a lot of people have been doing lately on Twitch, and I mean I'm okay with that. Again, that's up to their
Yeah.
perspective, right? So, um, but uh, but now on Kick, you see a lot of people actually now. I'm here for the money, here for all this, because you see the whole different payouts,
Mm-hmm.
and so I mean
Yeah,
that's one.
I think it does stink. I know I've been this big long ban rate of Twitch, but it is unfortunate that people do take it that way on Kick and stuff. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad because
Yeah,
there is for me personally, there's only really been like one or two people that switched over, and you can kind of tell like money changes people and stuff like that. And it's a conversation nobody wants to talk about because everybody gets offended by it. It gets clipped and out of context and stuff. But I've seen a couple of my decent friends go on other creators that I did look up to and stuff. And it just seems like their whole attitude has changed just because they're making more money. And it's good for me because I realize that that's somebody I don't want in my circle, because
yeah.
they then want to tap into me less because if they spend an hour on feed stream, that's an hour they could have been streaming and got $5 more or whatever. I am glad of that. I hate that that's the objective for it, but it does remind me of who I want to surround myself around.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I feel like just because you're making money though off of that platform, it shouldn't change you in any
Yeah.
way, right? You're just the same person. You should be talking to the same people, no matter what. Just because you're making money off of this app or whatever or something, it should never change you. I
Yeah.
mean, you should just be yourself. Always be yourself.
Yeah, and
Don't change.
I totally agree. I mean, it's good to be able to be humble when all that kind of stuff happens to you, but I mean, I think that it's it's a bigger topic for people that it has changed. I think I feel like a lot of people that their lives are moving fast because of Kick. I think that they do kind of need like a reality check. I feel like there's a lot of people that don't have friends to remind them, be like, hey, like I'm proud of your success, but like man, like I tapped into your stream the other day and you was like not appreciating me all being there. Like I feel like that's kind of a part of it too. Like there's some people that it's getting lost in the moment because they don't have people to check them. And I
Hmm.
think that's important. I think that's, like I said, that's why even like with this podcast, even on my podcast page, it says, guest followed, not to flex how many people's been on there, but to show all the like-minded creators that have been on here and that I support. And I think that it's very important that you surround yourself with those type of communities, because if you surround yourself with only people that have bad intentions or are really just there because they're trying to feature on your page to benefit them more, it's going to be a lose-lose for everybody.
Yeah. And that's the thing. People focus on numbers on their viewers. They focus on it. And I don't like that. It's just why would you focus on numbers on Kick or whatever, Twitch, whatever
Hmm.
platform you're on? But why do you focus on those numbers specifically? Right? Like I turn that off. I don't
Yeah.
even look at the thing. There's no point of it whatsoever. Whatever you're in chat, you're there. That's fine. That's
Hmm.
because you're connecting with whoever's in chat and talking to. But the same thing, like you're talking about, some people just come in, hey, you weren't happy that I was in chat today. Um, is there a reason? Whatever. And some people are like, well, I just wasn't happy today on stream. I'm like, well, that's not my problem. I didn't do anything
Yeah.
to you.
Yep.
So I mean, you should be happy that I'm there.
Yeah, and
Right?
I think it's the same rule applies too, because it's like, there is times where people will come into your chat and they'll say something like, oh, like I have things going on or whatever. Sometimes you can help them, sometimes you can't. And I think that's the thing too, is that a lot of people check up on you in the wrong ways. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they say things at either not like the right time, or like they'll be like, hey, like, you wasn't really doing that well, like when I tapped into you. And a lot of people could be like in a rude way, like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, why'd you treat me like that? Instead of being like that, be like, hey, like, I noticed you treated me a little bit different. Is everything okay? And like I said, I feel like a lot of people struggle with building that type of relationship and
Mm-hmm.
wording it in that type of way, because they're like, oh, like, I don't want to start drama. They're going to bite my head off and say, you don't have to check up on me. You're not my friend or whatever. Like, at the end of the day, like, you are their friend. Like, you're reaching out to them because you care about them. So practice what you preach and talk with your heart and speak with your heart, not speak just because you're offended, because that helps nobody. Because if
Yeah.
you're about creating a drama free community, if you send a message saying, why did you treat me that way, you're a fucking drama freak. You're a drama non-free community. Like, it makes no sense. And there's people that show their ass all the time, and it's dumb. But I
Well,
think that it's important for those things.
in that particular, like you're saying, like if your community member is asking how you are, that shows that they are caring for you, though,
Hmm.
right? But it still doesn't mean you should be giving them crap on the on your stream and saying, "Oh, I'm not feeling too good. Don't worry about it. Sorry." But I seen that happen before, and I not gonna lie. I mean, I shut that right out. I'm
Bruh.
like, yeah, bye. I'm sorry. I don't want to be in a toxic stream right now.
Right. No,
I'm just
and
gonna say
and
hello.
I get it, and everybody's different. Like, and I'll talk about it openly on stream. My buddy Ty, love him to death. He's a great guy, but it's not me putting him on blast, but this is the type of way that he is. I remember a conversation we had before, and he was like, yeah, somebody came on my stream and just said that they were not having a good day, and he said, I don't like talking about that stuff on stream, and I didn't really care, not because he didn't care of dealing with it, he just didn't want to have that open type of conversation. And me, I am
Mhm.
completely different. Like, I'm down for it. Like, hey, what's going on? Talk to me about it, as long as you know that there's other people here.
I
And I think that's the important thing too, is not everybody is going to react the same. Well, you can't come into my stream and expect me to be a therapist to you, and then go to Slayium's stream and he don't want to do anything like that, and he has other intentions and stuff. I feel like a lot of people expect the same thing out of all the streamers they support, and that's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I understand from that point of view, but also like I remember I think it was about a year ago, some person came in my stream, told me that they weren't doing so good, and I'm like, you know what? In my head, I've been always saying it's good to talk to somebody that you don't know, and to
Right.
let it out, right? Because it's bad to keep your feelings in, because anything could happen down the road. You know what I mean? Like I don't want anything to happen to that person or whatever. So I just say, hey, you know what? If you're down to talk about it, we could talk about it either on stream or off stream. Just feel free to message me. I'm open book. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that point of view, it's one, you're helping that person out, and they're talking to a stranger to let out whatever they have inside of them, like keeping that not built up in them.
Yeah.
And
No,
I like
definitely.
that.
Yeah, it's very important, and I think, and I bring this topic up all the time on the podcast, and I don't want to continue to go over like the same topics, but I do revolve around mental health and stuff. And with
Mm,
streaming, a lot of people don't realize the type of impact that they make as a creator.
mm,
I think I've shared the story once on the podcast before. I won't get all into it, but a buddy of mine, Steven, wasn't going through nothing. He was perfectly fine. But he was a former coach for COD champs and stuff, and had with a bunch of challengers events and a bunch of cool things. And he was finally stepping out of his comfort zone. He wanted to understand streaming. He wanted to understand the world that we live in as snipers. What do we do? What are our objectives? And he was like, "Hey, like this." He was in my stream. And he was like, "Hey, Feeds, I've been checking on you for a few days. You seem really humble. I would actually like to have a conversation with you." And I was like, okay. I was like, cool. I have free time after stream. We can talk if you want. And it was really awkward for me, but I did it anyways because I was intrigued. I like connecting with other people. And we talked for 4 hours off stream. Directly after my stream was over, we went on Discord. We called. We talked for 4 hours. I shared him a lot of my experiences. He shared a ton of his. And at the end of the whole thing is he was like, I was just trying to understand the world more, and you're just somebody that I connected with and that I thought could share that with me, and I'm very appreciative of having this conversation. And I was like, that's sick. And like you don't know, like I said, what kind of the impact you have. And I feel like when I say that, a lot of people gets into like, really bad things and bad thoughts and stuff like that. But it's not really about, all the bad thoughts and the struggling times. There's people out there that are genuinely just trying to build connections, and they think that you are somebody that can provide that type of knowledge to them. So it goes both ways, whether it's in dark days or whether it's in good days. And I think that's the important factor is a lot of people, when you think of the type of impact you make as a creator, you think of, just tons of like bad stuff and mental issues and mental health and depression and all that. But a lot of people don't really think about like just the knowledge that they have and the way that they prosper can be the impact alone, because you're kind of being like an idol, Do you
yeah,
kind of agree with the
exactly.
same thing?
I do because again, that guy will also now look up to you, or and if he needs to talk to anything, he will come to you,
Hmm.
right? That's the way they'll like it. And he, like you said, he's now happy that he had this talk with you and all that. And who knows, he might come back one day and
Yeah.
maybe and be like, hey, thanks for everything, man. You helped me out so
Yeah,
much.
I still talk to him every now and then. He
Yeah,
mainly just streams. He plays ranked and stuff, and just kind of does his own thing. We don't really talk, but I mean, it's just kind of like that mutual friendship now. Like I know him and
exactly.
he knows me, and I think that's very important because I feel like nowadays people don't really talk about who they are.
Yeah, I understand that one.
So yeah. So the last thing I want to get into before kind of getting back to the current topic and moving forward is, we did understand who Slayium is and how you got your name, but I do want to talk about Enforcer Gaming's. I think that it's important because that was a name that impacted you for a long time. It's a name that you went by. It's a name that you was passionate about, and it does kind of seem like even now it does kind of seem like you're holding on to it a little bit and still upset that you don't have that name anymore. Even though I know you like your new name because it rolls off the tongue and stuff. I do think that it's important to bring that up. So where did Enforcer Gaming came from to evolve into Slayium?
So where Enforcer came from, I always my dad's email used to be about Enforcer, so I was like, all
Hmm.
right. So I was like, all right, let's take that name and I'll just add it into gaming. So I just called myself Enforcer Gaming, no matter what. So
Hmm.
I kept progressing in that. I kept going, and the name kept kicking off on it. And I was actually really happy with the name, but also in that time being, I did hit a breaking point in my in my streaming, and I did get tired of it.
Hmm.
And I thought, you know what, after my lacking of putting myself out there, lacking of video pushing out, and lacking all that other stuff that you could do,
Hmm.
I did hit that breaking point where I wanted to take a break from streaming and all that. So after a while, um, I was like, you know what, maybe it's time to change.
Hmm.
And but once I figured out I had a lot of spare time after my work shift and it happened, and there was an accident that happened, and
Hmm.
that what made me decide to change. And so I was like, you know what, I can do all this. So I decided to think about what I wanted to do to change my name. So I did.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I think that's a good story, and you know, I do want to talk about a topic that you did want to talk about, but before that, I usually do like asking this type of question, especially now that we're on the topic, you know, of mental health and of taking
mhm,
breaks and getting burnt out. You know, I like to hear everybody's opinion because I feel like there is a lot of people that could watch this that either struggle with streaming or struggle putting out content or don't know if it's for them, or people that haven't even started and they don't know how to get into it. So,
mhm.
with somebody that's either struggling just to click that start stream and having, you know, anxiety or whatever, or people that are just burnt out and they was like, man, I've been at this for so long. So and so is way bigger than I am, and I just don't feel like he deserves it. Blah 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 blah. Like, what would your advice be to creators that struggle with streaming or connecting or just bouncing back?
For bouncing back wise, I just think in my eyes, what I was thinking about when I was bouncing back, I was just thinking about the positivity on everything. Right? I always be like, hey, you know what? This day was not a good day on stream day. Let's bounce back and go to the next and make sure it is 10 times better.
Hmm.
Something that you could do about yourself. And that's what I keep thinking every day. And every time I see if it's a bad stream, you know what? You have your bad games and good games when you play in stream, right? And you always want to make sure, you know what? Let's bounce back the next day. Come on. Always move forward to what you say. And like in my only little slogan, I just say, don't go backwards, always forwards.
Yeah.
Always. And I've been doing that ever since for my bounce back wise. But for streaming, I think you just want to always have a positivity on streaming, always. And any troubles that you're having on your streaming, just leave that all behind and just have a nice, fun stream. Enjoy yourself, play your fun games that you enjoy, and then when it's done stream, fix all that for the next time. I say that.
Yeah. So, lastly, you know, what is your advice on people that struggle with networking and branching out? And let's say I want to start streaming and I want to start doing all these things, but nobody supports me. I have no friends. I'd feel uncomfortable sending this message because I'm afraid of how they're going to respond. I mean, what's your advice to them to get themselves out there and make friends?
I say that to make friends, I say do your best. Like talk to people when you're playing games. Talk like it's struggling to make friends on games nowadays. But before then, like when you play a different game, get to know the people that you're playing with, and then start, you know, like the guys Nox and Dragon. We met off of Call of Duty, and we started getting into Discord together, and we built our bond and friendship together as that, and we just kept playing our games. So as we do that, I think for people like that, they should start branching out to making friendships and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree, and it's like one of my best buddies, Leafy Slimmons. I talk about him all the time. You know, backstory of all the things that we went through and hardships that he's had and that I've had and stuff. I mean, having conversations that me and him didn't want to have with each other, but we knew we needed to get it off our chest, being able to bite our tongues and have those conversations made us playing games way funner.
Yeah, exactly.
Made us be more goofy, made us be more supportive, made us even just that extra thing is like oh you're Sovadart, that's a recon bolt, you shoot it, blah 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 blah. Like even like
Hmm.
think like little tiny things that you could just be silent and just let them figure it out for yourself. You would be, you know, amazed at just a small bond that you take time out of your day to build. You would be amazed how that transpires into your gaming, into your streaming or whatever, because it's an extra resource that you have as a creator.
Yeah, and ever since that, but we been friends for a very long time now, and I'm getting them to start streaming now, and
Mhm.
I think that's what they like out of me. They're because they look up to me to do that kind of stuff too, right? And they always, every time when I wanted to not stream, they always push you, right? So that you want to have that friendship with them, right,
Yeah.
all the time.
And
So
I think it's good because you know when you're at that top of the ladder, you have you and then you have your other two or three friends or however many it is. You know they're pushing you all the time. Stream. I don't
yeah,
care that you're not feeling good. Stream, stream, stream. The moment they get in the stream, you can be like, all right, let me get off this ladder. You guys get up. Let me get on the bottom. Bitch, stream. Do it now. Like you turn that
your
like
turn.
right
Yeah,
back
you guys are
around.
taking
And
turns.
I think that it's important that you hold your friends accountable the same way that they hold you accountable, and
Exactly.
people don't normalize that nowadays. I mean, do you kind of feel the same way? Do you feel like
I
people
do.
don't give the 100% that they give them back?
Yeah, because you know what? They always give me always 100%. Always telling you to get back out there. You know what? You have something like you can do that. Like, let's just say you hit clips and bangers, all that stuff. You can put that out there and they push you to do it. Right. And I'm like, well, you know what? I like having my turn, but when is it yours? I want to give you your turn to help you get out there as well. So there, and that time being, I'm trying to help my friends get out there as well. And they're streaming. And that's what I like to do with them too.
Yeah, I think it's very important, and I feel like a lot of people just kind of need that re-acknowledgement, just to kind of revalue it and understand the kind of friendship that they built. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's a sad topic nobody wants to talk about, but I mean, if they wasn't there anymore, would you regret anything? Do you hope that you can push them more? And I feel like that's something that nobody wants to think about, but I feel like for some people, you have to kind of have that as motivation to remind yourself, like, sometimes there are times where everybody does. Everybody's too selfish at one point in their life, and I think that it is important that you, just have some type of realization factor so you can be who you always are.
Yeah, of course. I see that all the time. Same, like my friends always, what's it called? Ah, can't get that out. I stuck in my head now. I can't say anything. I got
You're all
nothing
good.
to say.
It's all good. It's all good. We'll switch to the topic here. If it comes back up, you can speak
Yeah,
of that.
I'll
The,
speak it
the
out.
last thing I wanted to talk about before we end off here is a topic that me and you talked about. I do openly talk about my fiance. We've been together for almost 6 years and 6 days. I'm pretty sure it's on the 29th. Don't hurt me if this is wrong, but pretty sure it's on the 29th. It'll be a 6 years we've been engaged. The reason why we're only engaged is because we want to get married so bad. She is applying for disability. It's an open public thing. Look at her; she's perfectly fine, obviously, but she does have a lot of medical issues. The issue that it has is that if we get married, she ends up losing her medical card, and especially the area that I'm in, there's no way that I can afford all the additives that she needs and stuff. And it does really stink. But at the end of the day, I mean, we know that in our heads we're husband and wife. It does suck that we can't legally say that. But she is the love of my life. I explain that, especially to all the women creators. I usually go into the same spill, but I never really openly talk about her. Nothing really wrong with that. It's just not like a topic that just kind of comes up. But you kind of have the same experience as well, right? I mean, you've been with your girl for a while.
Yeah, we've been together for 9 years. We were high school sweethearts, so it was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And just on the 18th of September, so I think I would say last week or whatever, it was our official 9 year, and we couldn't do anything because we were working.
Mm-hmm.
But for wedding wise, it's just so expensive in here in Canada right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
some area, like places that we find, it's just very expensive. It is very hard to do, um, for budget wise, right? And we went to a couple places, and they asked for a fair amount of money, right? And we're like, you know what? We rather do like a backyard wedding. And so, I mean, in that, it's really hard to get married nowadays.
It
I'd
is.
say that, but back in the day, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. No, it definitely is, and that's kind of the downside of it too. Like even after the fact that if everything works out that we're hoping for, and we do get married, like we're still going to face that same struggle of how we're going to do it, how much money we're going to pay and stuff. And I think it all depends on what you want. I mean, if you are genuinely open and okay with your other half or your partner or however you want to word it, I mean, having a big fancy wedding shouldn't be a priority for you if you're publicly saying this is the love of my life, and that's who I want to spend my time with. And I feel like a lot of people, I've seen a lot of big weddings, which if they can afford them and stuff, it is a fun time. It's a great time. It's a very memorable moment. But I do feel like there are people that get into the big weddings that know not only that they can't afford it, and I've seen a lot of them like fall out. Like I've seen a lot of like backlash from it, whether it be financial wise or just things that they said or their vows or whatever. And I feel like there is some people out there that forget the importance of what marriage really means.
Yeah, and then nowadays too, like when you post something that you've been with them for so long, people now attend to you and be like message you privately, be like, "Hey, could you give me like relationship advice?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, someone be like, "You know what? I've been having problems with my girl. What should I do?" And in my eyes, I can't do nothing about it. Every relationship is different now, right? Like yours could be a toxic relationship, but also a loved one, right? Like it's like an abusive kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could happen. but I can't tell you what to do with your relationship. It's more you to figure out. And,
Yeah.
and I always tell people that I'm like, I can't do nothing to your relationship, but I could give you a bit of advice, but it's what you do with it
Yeah, and
because I can't do nothing.
I'm kind of the same thing. I mean, saying this, a lot of people is like cap, and they're like, "Oh, that's not real." And like, yeah, you guys fight, whatever. Like, when I say this, it's something that it's the most genuine sentence that can come out of my mouth. And me and my fiance have never had any type of argument. We've not had any type of argument, any type of back and forth. We've always been who we are. We love each other to death. We're always supportive of each other. And I know that's kind of a bland thing in a way, but like almost every couple nowadays argues about something. And me and her, like, we have like little disagreements here and there, but we've never had any
That's
type of
normal.
argument, and never had any type of argument that where we don't want to sleep next to each other at night, or oh, like I just need some time, get away from her. Like I've never had that in my 6 years of being with her. And she's an amazing woman, and I'm very proud of her and her accomplishments and her struggles and her battles that she goes through. And I feel like, just me personally, like, I mean, she, figure out how to word this, like, I feel like it's more important for me to maintain my composure more, because at the end of the day, like, I want to give her the world. So I need to always make sure that, not like act like it, but that I always stay in my head that I want to give her the world. Because like I said, I mean, there's a lot of relationships that kind of end up losing, that perspective, and cheating happens, and divorces and kids get involved and stuff. And I feel like nobody talks nowadays, and I would say it's the corniest thing you could say in a relationship, but communication is the biggest part.
It's key. It really is. Communication is key in your relationship. I like sometimes, again, not every relationship is perfect.
Hmm.
You say you don't get a lot of fights and arguments, all that. Though. I mean, there is times that you'll argue, but there's times you need to communicate after. Be like, hey, what can we do to fix this? What is the problem? What can I do to change? Is there anything I can do? So in that time, like my 9 years, there's a couple bumpy roads, let's
Hmm.
not lie,
Hmm.
right? But at the time, we will sit down and we will talk about it. Hey, what can we do? And if that does happen, and if it does bounce back, she'll tell you, right? We've been in that kind of bumpy road, and it's fine. And now look at us now. We're 9 years, going on 10 next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully to be married next year. But honestly, relationships, it's needs. I think that's what they need, is just always communicate. Communication is key in
Yeah,
that.
and that's kind of, like I said, that's kind of the thing that I struggle with. Like, yeah, like I just preach about how we've not had any arguments or whatever, but people can be like, "Yo, like feeds, I just had an argument with my girl about blah 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 blah. Like, what's advice you can give me?" And that's kind of something that I'm stuck on, like, because they think about me talking about 6 years and be together, and it's like I
Because they
don't.
look up to you.
Yeah, and like, I'm grateful for it, but I don't have a reply, because I'm like, well, you should tell her she's in the wrong, because I've never told my fiance, like, in a derogative way, that she was wrong. I'll say times where like I was wrong, but like, oh, like I'm sorry, whatever. Like, I'll roll my eyes and apologize if there is a situation that she was right about, but I will never demoralize her and say that like you were wrong and you shouldn't have treated me like that way. And so that's kind of the little bit of difficulty that I have, is because like when it comes to like arguments and stuff, I'm not the best person for that, because I don't argue with my fiance. We see things for the most part eye to eye, and we really get into it and explain, how we both feel. And like I said, it's just like I said, it is such a corny thing to say, and it's saying that people just don't normalize, and that's communication. And I feel like that's just, it's not the fact that people lack it. I just think it's the fact that a lot of relationships don't understand what communication really means to them, especially if you've had issues in the past. If you've had exes or people that's treated you bad, or a divorce that you've got out of or something, those can all take a toll. Having kids involved and stuff, I completely understand that. But at the end of the day, if you see somebody and you're like, this is the love of my life, this is somebody I want to spend the rest of my time with, you need to always have that energy. Every conversation, every downfall, every dumb thing, even if
This
you're
is the
super
person I want to wake up
frustrated.
to in the
Hmm.
every time, right? This is the person I want to wake up to every day. And and then that point of view, you just want to make sure, hey, this is my partner, my best friend, the rest of my whole life. This is what I want to deal with.
Yeah.
And I think in that point of view, I think you should always just love one another and just communicate with everything that you can do.
Yeah,
But
it's definitely important. And I mean, if you ever need advice, whether it's on streaming or gaming, or even if it is a relationship, you can always hit us up, reach out to us. We don't care one bit to help. At the end of the day, just like I was telling you before, I mean, you can never have too many friends in this world, and
pretty much.
I just feel like it's not normalized enough. So yeah, so I mean, our Twitter stuff is going to be below us. Check out Slayer; he's going to be in the description. Before we end off here, is there anything that you'd like to share with your community? Anything that's coming up that you're excited about?
Honestly, I got something big coming up. Actually, I was gonna do a sniping tournament one day.
Hmm.
I don't know the date yet, but there is gonna be some giveaways into there.
Nice.
Um, but right now it's in the works. I'm just thinking about what we could do. Me and my friends are discussing about it right now. But hopefully we might do it. It's gonna be probably for the next Call of Duty, obviously,
Right.
which I'm excited for. I can't wait to see it. Hopefully, there's no downfalls.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that's what we're in the works right now, and hopefully it takes off about. I think hopefully by the end of Christmas, I think we're gonna have a talk about it in January.
Yeah. Well, that's sick. I'm definitely excited to see that. I hope that it does go well. So obviously we're about to end off here. Is there any last words that you'd want to say for anybody watching?
Make sure you check out Feeds over here. This guy's I love this guy. Mwah.
Thanks.
And be sure to check me out too sometimes if you want. I do live stream during the week as well, morning Eastern time, 10 a.m. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's it for me.
Alrighty, guys. Well, I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for tuning in to Feeds Mindset. Again, this has been episode 21. Being able to talk with Slayium and getting to know more about him and stuff. It's a humble experience, and to be able to just be in this position as the host, I mean, it means a lot to me. Everybody giving me their time of day to further my podcast. So, Slayium, I really do appreciate your time being here.
Hey, thank you for having
means
me,
a
buddy.
lot. So we're gonna go ahead and end here. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Feeds Mindset. My name is Feeds, and I'm out, guys.